This, to me, is like, if you think about government and state governments, they call that the laboratory of democracy. This is like the laboratory of financial capability and financial education. The program is great, the annual report, and this network is very, very vibrant. And I think what I'll share with you today are some tools you can use immediately following today's session, if you choose, that can be put into action, especially to underserved audiences. And I think this will complement what Angela teed up in kind of the global trends that are going on. I think this is all, whenever I'm at Federal Reserve, I mean, you feel so secure here. And you feel like, you know, if like these were sheets made of money and you're just like tucked in. It's a safe place to deliberate. The facility's beautiful. But we get really this chance to kind of think through and connect, and I think I encourage you to do that. I brought some handouts that I really would like you to consider taking with you, because this one, and we have them out on the table in the back, you'll see an image on the PowerPoint that lists all these tools and resources. So this is like a one-page sheet. It'll have all the URLs I'm talking about, plus financial workshop kits brochure that I have. And more importantly, a sign-up sheet for a quarterly e-newsletter for Financial Workshop Kit's site. And I think you'll see why that's important. It's a two-page newsletter that goes out, and it will prompt you what's new on the site. It's kind of a reminder that that tool is there for your use. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A, and even though I don't have slides that deal with public policy, I'm going to talk about policy in a little bit, but also this idea of a financial on-ramp. There are so many ways personal finance connects to all of our lives, and especially underserved Americans who've been buffeted by this recession and the continued lack of, in many sectors, lack of economic growth. But like you go on a highway, you have a choice. You can, be in a car or not. You have different levels of skill of driving, but you're trying to go to some destination. So when I look at policy and collaborations, connections, sometimes I get overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, personal finance, it won't solve everything, but it's so connected to everything. And sometimes you just got to calm down and relax. And I think some of the things you'll see here are these little on-ramp ways to connect with unique audiences, work that's been done for you that's maintained that you can tap into so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and then do all these great local and media connections that we've heard about. In the policy area, we've talked about something called a financial tripod, and that is financial education, financial counseling, coaching, anything in that category. That's one. The second part of the tripod is regulation and consumer protection. The third is behavioral finance, behavioral economics, those guardrails that are put in place like defaults. You start a job, you're defaulted into saving in a 401k, and some of those are very, very good to move the needle. So Alejo and Tiffany, thank you for inviting us. NIFI does try to work across the lifespan. You've heard our mission statement read, or the vision. So we do try to touch that, but I think there's another part I want to mention, and that's we envision a world where people make informed, thoughtful, and beneficial financial decisions that are aligned with their values. So it's back to the individual, it's back to choice and really freedom for them to choose, but to optimize financial capability with who they are, their background, their aspirations, the loves of their life, so they can enjoy better, more secure, more satisfying lives. So a lot of it is about choice. And you'll hear along this stair step of kind of the life continuum of programs you can tap into that we maintain. We're a private operating foundation. We're self-funded, independent. We're blessed with that, nonpartisan and non-commercial. So whenever we link to a site, it's usually a government site in our materials or a nonprofit site. And I'm going to talk a lot about community, because a lot of the tools we have are for intermediaries, those folks like you and people you work with and connect with. And you can be a leader in the community, you can be a teacher, facilitator. Pro bono financial planners like Ed and his colleagues are great resources in communities. They're subject matter experts that you can tap into. And the tools we have allow you to do that quickly and with some nice boundaries to leverage that expertise and provide more variety to your audiences. So when you think about an on-ramp, I mean, you got a lot of choice. What speed are you going to get on? What route are you going to take? And I think in contrast to what Dr. Lyons said yesterday, I'm going to kind of give you some micro-targeted audience assists here. Because some of the folks I'm going to talk about, and through the Financial Workshop Kits platform, don't have an easy way to get on that highway. They don't even know that there's a highway out there for them. And they may have been buffeted by a life circumstance or something that prevents them from even having that vision. So this is the copy of the brochure I have out there about Financial Workshop Kits. We've done 100 national collaborations in the past. Alejo mentioned a few of those, like Red Cross, Habitat. I got a call from the American Cancer Society yesterday while I was at your session. Groups that we've worked with, out of those 100, we're probably engaged with about 20 actively, and we do update some of those materials. But this is becoming a content hub for a lot of those ideas, where we blend personal finance with experts in kind of some area, like in disease, disability, adoption, you name it, and then marry it with the audience, kind of where they are to meet that need. So you will benefit from that 15 years of work through this platform. And these are little presentations you can make. So that's what the website looks like. And we have it divided right now into 10 categories. So this is indexed for your convenience. It's cross-indexed. You can kind of pick a topic that you think you need to add in terms of programming, or encourage one of your colleagues or subject matter experts to do that. And you see those listed there. We will be adding a retirement series soon to this. We'll have 11 categories. I think we'll hold there for a while. And then this is an example of workshops that are on the site right now. And former inmates, domestic violence, addiction, income, savings, and assets. That's kind of like, just kind of financial basics of growing with assets. Transitional housing. So that's kind of one dealing with homelessness. So that was developed with a national alliance to end homelessness. Family money skills with the National Council on Family Literacy. Military personnel, our work with FINRA and the National Military Family Association. You also see kind of there in the middle, savings through tax refunds. That's something we've done with the IRS. We're a partner with the IRS Spec Office. And that really leverages, that's almost a train the trainer piece, to leverage that EITC money that's really can be spent in the community, but for individuals to celebrate, plan, and take action. So that is a stair step. That's a higher level on-ramp for folks. That annual blessed event from the IRS, if you manage it right, and you have a lot of choice there. So we give you ideas on that. And then we've added a college series. So we have a college program in over 700 colleges and universities. This is some of the content from that repurposed for more of a, let's say, first in the family to go to college type audience. And those are the workshops there. Now, what I'm real proud of are, I'll talk about here the kind of what's in a workshop. So each one has a PowerPoint, it has a script or facilitator's guide, handouts, which are really good. Those can be presentations in themselves because you get the audience to work with those. A list of other resources, and again, that's nonprofit or government type links. And we don't overwhelm you as a facilitator, or if you're referring this to an expert to deliver to your audience. We just have a few, maybe no more than 6. And that allows them to have the option to go to a deeper dive, and sometimes that's where we link to the original collaborative program that we've done with the national nonprofit, let's say on domestic violence with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. You'll see the updated work that we've done there if you need to go deeper. And FAQs. So in like 4 to 5, like less than 2 pages, if somebody says, I don't know if I feel good about this audience, I'm intimidated by it, or I've never talked to an ex-con. Maybe I married one, but I just, that's private, but I've never gone public with an ex-con. So what you've got to do there is it encourages you, where's that audience orientation? So it aligns the presenter or you as a planner to who you want to work with, or how you would approach that, and it helps you pick the right people to do this type of work. So that's throughout all these. And then the cool part about this, everything we did in collaboration was co-branded. That actually helped NEFI's brand get out. If you see NEFI and Habitat for Humanity, that looks pretty cool. And so, but that was like a homeowner's handbook. And we've done 2, and then after Katrina, we did another project with them called the financial recipe box that is online. That's really cool. People to get ready to become Habitat homeowners. But we're now looking at an update for that next year. But that's kind of like copyrighted and for that audience. What we've done here is we've open sourced most of this. So you won't see the NIFI logo on these PowerPoints. You can put your logo on them, but you have to pay a price, and I'll show you what that is. Oh, here's the price you have to pay. You have to click. Remember the Jetsons, when Jane Jetson had like clickitis, and she had to get a therapist because everything was like, oh, I've been hitting buttons too much. You have to pass through that kind of hurdle to do this. But we ask you to do this, and I think this is what your mantra is: non-commercial, educational purposes. As long as you agree to that, that's the price of admission. So all the NIFI material is free, but this is one thing we ask you to acknowledge in your work. Each workshop has a little description. So when you do the cross-indexing, you'll see an image and then a short, 2 or 3 sentence description of it. So it gives you an idea as you kind of scan through this what you might use. And this is great to use with interns or other volunteers. Have them go to the site and pick out what they might want to provide or add to your activities and your outreach. Now, we do have a preview of coming attractions. I would say of these next 3 slides, we probably have 20 of these, and they're already either written or there's some form of editing. Our editing process is very slow sometimes, but it's worth it. And this is what is coming new to financial workshop kits, and they will also be cross-indexed to those 10 or later 11 categories. Item 3 there, chronic illness, that will be based on the work we've done with the American Cancer Society. And again, they just called, they want to update some of the material we've done for them. And here's, on the home buyers side, this is our collaboration with Habitat being morphed into open source content for you. And it's actually got newer stuff that's not even in the Habitat area, like risk and protection, and a really great piece about foreclosure prevention and mitigation. Adoption is great. Personal finance issues related to adoption. So everything here is money issues to a connection to a social objective. Adult financial mentoring, that'll be based on our work with Salvation Army, managing adult disabilities, problem gambling. We did the first personal finance advisory piece with the National Council on Problem Gambling. How do you help the spouses, the family members of the problem gambler? When I first went to Vegas to talk to some of the folks there after a few nights at the craps table, I was kind of enlightened as to the issue, and I thought, oh, problem gamblers, you hear me like little mini CFP guy. I'm thinking, hey, they want to score so they can like infuse money in their retirement account. Well, that's not really what they're interested in. So they want to stay in action, but the consequences are the family members. So that's the target audience there. And that is being updated right now. We have a writer working on it, we talked to that group and got national feedback on that. The final kind of coming attractions, Red Cross, and now we work with AICPA Foundation. This is disaster preparation and recovery on personal finance issues. This will be the 5th edition that we've done with that, and that is in design right now. And so we'll build workshop kits based on that content. And I think the Red Cross is going to build apps based on this new material that we're doing. So it'll be on their site, and then we'll link to this. The bottom one is My Retirement Paycheck, and that's where we're going to add the retirement series here, and that'll be category number 11, and I'm going to show you what that is in a few minutes. Uh-oh, looks like we got a problem here on the road. So now this is where people kind of have a problem. And, I'm from Colorado, and we just had a lot of roads washed out, so there can be external factors for that. Sometimes it's a personal breakdown of a divorce or an accident, an illness that causes people to kind of have a problem, and they veer off. They need like counseling and coaching. So inside workshop kits, this is again the financial workshop kits. I got to hold this up again. It's like a hub for you to everything that is in NIFI from a practitioner point of view. So again, it's this brochure and the newsletter. So we've created a microsite in here. We have a NIFI Tools tab that covers all the things I'll talk about in the last eight or so minutes. but inside we've created a case management tool section. Now what this is like the social services, the social work, direct counseling. Money resolution strategies, also in editing, by the way, but hopefully in December it'll be here. This is based on our work with 211 operators. 70% of the calls to that kind of community resource are about money crisis, and a lot of them are like repeat issues. And so as people are like at a hamster wheel, they call for the same thing. Well, I've like been kicked out of my apartment, or my tires went bad. My used car won't take me to work, so I'm about to lose my job. And we've developed little messaging for the 211 operators, and then when we ran this by social workers and like community action partnership folks, they said we want a desktop version of this too. So both of those, and it's an interactive PDF. You can actually customize some local resources on that, and that'll be in December in this microsite. And then eventually we'll build a workshop around that too. So the PowerPoints will be there. And one of the great ones is this blueprint for community-based financial education. This is a third edition of this. We've done a collaboration with Catholic Charities. Instead of just doing another curriculum outreach, we thought, how do community groups, nonprofits, if they're given the task to help solve a social problem for personal finance in their area, their geographic zone, what do they do? How do they plan for that? So this is like a community strategic planning device. It was updated this summer, and it has all the things Alejo alluded to with some of the President's Council stuff. The Obama administration actually published 2 really good practical reports. We have links to that in the back, and this is also kind of an interactive PDF. And it's about 80 pages, but it's divided into little easy sections to help. So if you have like a volunteer council you want to work, or you want to form a coalition or alliance, you're concerned about sponsorship, fundraising, evaluation, all those major topics are covered in here. And we're building, like we always do, some workshops on this. So we'll actually have it in a format you can train and have a live workshop, and then this is your backup. It's the workshop actually is going to be in 3 parts. I've read also in editing the first 2 of those. So that's inside that microsite under case management tools in there. So again, good practitioner stuff. And then here's the e-newsletter. So on the homepage of workshop kits, we'd love for you to sign up for the e-newsletter, but I have a sign-up sheet in the back. All I need is your name and email address, and probably a dozen of you have already signed up for it, and I thank you for that. But we'll get you signed up. That's quarterly, no ads, 2 pages a quarter, and it will prompt you about what's new on the site. So those coming attractions you'll know about. Oh, we're back on the highway here. So we're going to go, this is like the NIFI tools. So we're leaving workshop kits, that kind of intermediary support area, and now we're going to talk about some of the other basic NIFI tools, and some of these are consumer focused. So this gives people a lot of choice, and again, the speed of the highways accelerating, so they're kind of like more money decisions. So I'm going to cover each of these, and every one of these is on this one sheet, also out on the table. So retirement paycheck. We are building over time 10 workshops based on this. 2 are written and also in editing, but they're great. All right, this is research-based with the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, and a national think tank where you have people from the Fed, CFP practitioners, academicians, media people, and industry people. Like I think we had like 4 national mutual fund companies, and we said, we know about saving for retirement's challenging, and a lot of people are not doing it. They're way behind. But a tougher problem is retirement income management or decumulation. I don't know when I'm going to die, and I don't know how long my money's going to last. And guess what? People get both those wrong because they underestimate their longevity, and they overestimate the power of compounding or of a corpus of money of what that'll produce in income. And so you've got a double problem there. And so this is a site designed to help people optimize decision making. And we ended up with these little circles, 8 decision zones, Social Security, work, home and mortgage. And we've added, and so this is a non-number site. This is for the undersaved, underinformed, people thinking about retirement issues based on urban myths. They think about Sally down the hallway, like, oh, she retired, but she retired at 62. I'll do what she did. Well, if you're a woman, that's like, that's a really bad choice. If you can work longer and increase that annuitized, inflation-adjusted check called Social Security, every year you delay after 62, it goes up 8% for lifetime. Social Security does have some magic knowledge. It's like Wizard of Oz. It knows when you're going to die. For some reason, it's going to be with you till you. What do they call that? Anyway, I'll think of it later. There was some. I'm going to speak at a church in Kansas City, and they talk about something from the cradle to the grave, but from the womb to the tomb. Social Security, yeah, that's it. And there's another one that's funnier, but I'll think of it. Okay, so we've added interactivity to this to help encourage. So this is like a site of hope and encouragement. And we don't lead with numbers like most of the retirement sites because the numbers don't sound good and people will shut down. So we're saying if you work a little longer, if you check on the work box, then we have like a darker line leading to some of the other areas to show how it has a positive effect on retirement plans. You can maintain your health insurance if you're privileged enough to have that. And then obviously the Social Security check would be longer. And we show that kind of encouragement. And this is to combat those urban myths. This is based on research and some of the best advice in the country. So these do interact, and it's holistic. So if you think about NEFI, our heritage came from the College for Financial Planning, the CFP credential. It's really where endowment began. But it's that we're not biased. If we're biased on holistic. It's context. And this is what we try to provide here. This kind of even way to look at it. And you can see 6 of these, the top 6 are sort of progressive. It's growth. And the bottom 2 are defensive categories to optimize, debt and fraud. Work on the defense. And then we have these messages in here about how this works, little links to articles, but it's very easy to navigate. And I've had some calls from CFPB. We're going to be talking about this, so I don't know if that'll lead to wider expansion use on this. But when do I start collecting Social Security, and just laying out some of those great ideas. Okay, so that's that one tool, and I do have a brochure on that. This next one is a consumer tool called smartaboutmoney.org. It's kind of the NEFI, the government has mymoney.gov. This is kind of like our mymoney.gov. It's life event focused, and it's just been updated. It has its own little newsletter. This is something, again, with no commercialization. You can pick and choose to refer as a leave behind to your clients and the public. But you can check it out. Again, I have the links on that one page. Spencer.org, also a consumer tool and a fun tool to use in teaching. This is a YouTube video site dealing with overspending. This is a public confessional about overspending. Now, I know there are a lot of Catholics in Chicago. I came in, you see the great churches from different ethnic groups, but this is like, a YouTube confessional. And you have Americans from all backgrounds, all ages, owning up to a spending regret. And then we have calculators on here. What could you do with that money? How could you save that if you hadn't spent it, what it could mean for you? A lot of fun, and you could even have some of your audience members, do a project and post their own YouTube videos on this. But it's a lot of fun, Spencer. And we are, in editing, we're building a workshop on that. Okay, NEFI High School Financial Planning Program. We work with Cooperative Extension Service. A lot of you have heard of this. This was kind of our premier first kind of project in the area of personal finance. It's been updated. We even have relationships with groups like the Junior ROTC uses this. It's good even in kind of late middle school through almost, grade 13, 14, early community college. And there's a lot of interactive support with that. Cash Course. This is our college program. It's not so much consumer focused, but this URL gives you access to it as practitioners. But this is co-branded with over 700 colleges and universities. We piloted it. We started the idea here in Chicago and piloted with the Big Ten schools, and that's where we started. So this site is generic on financial basics, paying through college, money issues right after graduation. And then the college, as you can see down here, it says your logo here in the middle. They can add their logo, their school colors. It's free, and we support this. But it gives them, and they place this on their financial aid site, alumni association site, or like even parents clubs for the helicopter parents, so they get a little place to interact with their kids. The evaluation toolkit, we believe in measurement and metrics, and you've heard a lot about that. This has been updated, I think, 3 times, and we're building a workshop kit on this too. But it's available to you with embedded questions on personal finance, ways to do quick surveys, and even to save surveys, and even do mildly longitudinal studies where you could like have an event, and then if you have access to the audience, in 3 months later you can come back to them and ask them some more questions. Okay, there's the image of that card I was holding up. Everything I mentioned is on this, including workshop kits. So you've got the URL, and it's we're real proud of that card. It's just one little piece of paper, but it's pretty cool. All right, oh my gosh, look, we're like, we have choices here. Design, we don't know where we're going, and now we're to the research phase. So I'm going to give you, as Alejo asked me to, a little bit about NEFI research. This is the one part of our grants area. You know, we kind of eat our own cooking. You know, we create programs, a lot of alliances. We do some public policy work, but the research work is where we do actually grant making on behavioral finance, moving the needle. And so I'll give you, and I got to put my glasses on for this. I'm going to show you 2 projects that are in process. This is at Ohio State University. This is tied in, since 1997, there's been some kind of wild longitudinal survey of youth. I mean, this kind of youth cohort is constantly looked at. And this gets into kind of the issue of failure to launch, you know, emerging households, the kids still sitting in the basement, you know, with Grand Theft Auto, which they just bought last night. And now they're out looking for their iPhone. But this deals with the impact of debt on, you know, look at the bottom there, influence on anxiety, depression, college completion, moving back to the home, marriage, birth, household formation, huge implications to society. That's a project going on right now. We have a section even on that card that I showed you that gives the research URL. Columbia University, this deals with cognitive abilities, decision making, very unusual thing. And this deals with kind of the mental discounting, the heuristics people think about as they approach personal finance. So it's to look at that kind of decision making influenced by financial education combined with where they are on cognitive ability. So this is kind of looking at people in their 50s and up as well. And there's this issue of basic skills decline, but sometimes wisdom goes up. And it's going to try to look at those kind of insights in the context of decision environment. So this is back to behavioral finance. Now I'm going to show you just a few studies that are completed. And our work with the University of Arizona is a 3-phase project. And so one of the learnings we had is that there is a positive effect of financial education, a cumulative effect over time. So little interventions do add up, and this was tracking a cohort of students who may have engaged in risky financial behaviors, and you add financial education to that, and they found over time those were mitigated. But so that's the big takeaway if I were Dr. Angela Lyons, which I am not, and I don't live in Taiwan. So, all right, look at the bottom here. This is a big takeaway here. 3 factors that create an effective solution to avoiding financial problems when students start college. These are documented. Parental involvement, so that's the helicopter, you know, love on the parents, helicopter parents has a lot of influence. Then education, and this is financial education in high school, again, proven that that works. And then work experience, engaged in the economy, some kind of part-time job. You create this, and I was in New Orleans last weekend, this beautiful gumbo of 3 items, and you mix it up, and you're gonna have a positive effect. These are things that really pay off. So this is based on 3 research projects. NEFI, University of Wisconsin Teacher Financial Capability Study. This applies to the intermediary community you serve, and this is the idea that teachers don't feel good. They've never been schooled in money management at their colleges of education. Their in-service training, very rare that they'll get that. And so they become the champions in schools about personal finance. When they don't feel good about money themselves, they're not likely to take that edge and work it out to help their students. And the bold one in the middle, less than 20% feel competent to teach the topics, and yet 70% at the bottom would want to get formal education training. So you talk about working together. You've heard of the Jumpstart Teacher Training Alliance was formed with NEFI, Jumpstart, FDIC, National Council on Economic Education, and the FIFI organization in Arizona, University of Arizona. And this is what's happened. So we came together. We had a meeting in Arnie Duncan's conference room at the Department of Education, taking this data from these research studies and say, how are we going to move the needle? Let's do some pilots. We've done 7 pilots in 5 states. The empirical results of that are tremendous, and you'll see the statistics down at the bottom. Big impact. So with the Jumpstart Teacher Training Alliance, you can apply to be another pilot site, or we have the tools and the metrics of how to do that and have that replicated in your area. And then here's the last study I've got. This is something we did with the University of Florida, the effectiveness of state mandates. So the positive effect, that laboratory of democracy, states and cities, and that's a whole other area of public policy we're looking at, the activation of cities and coalitions on the municipal level. You've heard of the super vitamin effect. Jonathan Mintz of New York talked about this. If you go in to get regular social services or SNAP, or I need some help in transportation or daycare, those are opportunities to talk about personal finance in the context of those decisions. And then, so for general social services, this adds great positive effect. But inside state mandates, where they're trying to frame better financial education, here's some of the results. Less prone to compulsive buying, more likely to accept average financial risk, more likely to save money, credit cards. Oh, here's our little car again. So this is kind of the end. But it really shouldn't be the end for you. I just want you to relax. What you and I collectively do in this area is very important. It's like the lifeblood of how we live. We think about love a lot, but boy, we sure think about money. And when we're choosing our loves, we often check that credit report, and we should. But people are wise. The recession has had some positive effects of lowering some debt, people engaged in this, realizing they need, and a lot of people won't seek professional advice, but this kind of neutral advice you provide, community engagement, is great. So there's my contact information, and I'm ready for questions. Yes, thank you. And I think we have a mic coming. Please stand up.
Sure. Melissa Leiber from Country. Thanks for sharing the good information. Wow. I have a question about what is, in your opinion, the role of private sector financial education? So a company like mine providing financial literacy maybe to teachers or in the classroom, we've been reluctant to do that because we feel that once we do it, it'll either be outdated immediately or there's already something better out there. So how do you see those two things working together in the future, and is there a place for it, or are these the best resources?
I think, like pro bono financial advisors, there's a place for community involvement and letting yourself, talk to a school principal, school board, or others, or through like a local Jumpstart coalition or your group, that you're part of a entrepreneurial resource team available to help. You can come in as a guest speaker. You can amplify certain sections of like the NEFI high school program. And we've had many private sector people under the proper rules that are required in a public or private school setting to come in and amplify. That's like, take your kid to work day. I mean, it adds variety. It shows that real people engage in this, and it's very important for diversity, if at all possible, to let underserved Americans, people who not engage as much in the financial sector, even as a profession, that is a good positive impact, to give people like, hey, there's another way to do business. There's another way to engage and help people. But private sector is important. Angela talked about all that technology coming, the apps, and then and the Center for Financial Services Innovation. We work with them as kind of judges reviewing proposals, and all these great ways to take private initiative linked to underserved audiences to create savings moments through new technology, and smartphone type apps. Okay, there, and we'll go over there. Yes.
Brandon Inslee from Purdue University. We use NIFI and Cash Course all the time. And one of my big questions is we know that there's a new Cash Course website rolling out.
Right.
And we have a branded Cash Course website, and we were wondering if that was still going to be a branded Cash Course website after the new website rolls out.
Yeah, the new one is just going to have more, updated interactivity, some new content based on feedback from users. So one of the great things that we do a lot of listening. So there's like a user community, like any good software platform with Cash Course, the folks at the universities. And so it'll be like the old one, but it'll be just, a little more interactive, and we do that all the time, update. And again, from Financial Workshop Kits, the idea came from pro bono financial advisors who helped Americans after 9/11. And they said, we're doing all this counseling, and a lot of it, came like a year after 9/11. That's when people were ready to engage in getting advice and neutral counsel. But they said, I want to do this, but I have a barrier to my involvement. I don't want to reinvent my asset allocation proposal to talk to previously, people that are in transitional housing. So that's why we do workshop kits, to give something that's sensitive to the audience, but you can still make local adjustments.
My question, you have a lot of great programs there. I was wondering if you have anything at the elementary school level.
We don't. I know that the Junior Achievement does. I think the Council on Economic Education. That's one of those things like in the old book, In Search of Excellence, you kind of stick to your knitting. So we have made a choice not to invent an elementary or middle school version, although the high school version can move to the middle school. Middle school kids are much smarter than we were, I think, so they can handle it. We did work with Elmo and Sesame Street, and somebody here was from PNC Bank that helped sponsor that kind of Elmo kind of personal, Elmo's like a CFP, but but small and hairy, furry. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Martha Henn with the Indiana Jumpstart Coalition. I had a question about a resource that I just saw a day or two before I came here, and this wasn't something I had been previously aware of, but the Gates Foundation has an area of focus now on digital financial services for the poor. Is this something you've been involved with at all, or do you know much about this? It looks pretty interesting.
I've heard of that. I think what I've seen of it, it's more for developing countries and it's more international focus.
I think a lot of it, I think it is global, but I think they may include the U.S. I'm not sure.
I really, we should talk afterwards, because I'd like to look at that a little more. And what Angela talked about, there's so many cutting edge things happening internationally, and the application to, from the basics of microfinance and the Grameen Bank and all that, Muhammad Yunus, there's great things we can learn from that. And entrepreneurism is a big part of this. If we're not having all this job growth and people are like living, a part-time American life, work life, entrepreneurism has got to be part of this too. And you see that in immigrant communities where they own real estate, they'll start small businesses, and that may be, that's another on-ramp to personal finance that's very instructive for us. Yes?
Are you planning, or are you in the planning stages of doing a workshop on the Affordable Health Care Act?
That was the call I got yesterday from the American Cancer Society. I also talked with a colleague at the Annie E. Casey Foundation who asked me, are we doing any workshops on that? So I think it's timely. I know that's in political play right now, but I think some of the basic tenets of that, of prevention and shopping, the insurance exchanges, we've got to get into that. So I think we will. It's kind of a moving target. We may start with our partners at American Cancer Society on that, but we're likely, the chronic illness piece that we actually have up for editing, that needs more infusion of the Affordable Care Act. Okay. So, and again, I encourage you, we got the brochures out there. Sign up for the workshop kits, e-newsletter. Yes, sir.
I'm just going to give a great endorsement. Tom worked with Consumer Credit Council Service in Dallas, and through our relationship with Texas Credit Union League and Foundation, we use the NEPI High School Financial Planning Program
as we go into schools on behalf of credit unions. It's fantastic, not just directly for the students, but as we're doing train the trainers for teachers to implement
Right.
when we're not there. So for folks that haven't engaged with NEFI, and whether you're going directly through them or through one of the partners in your state, it's just incredible curriculum in the work kit. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. And just to wrap up, unless there are any other questions, there are many other aspects of public policy. We're not, our tax status, we're not allowed to lobby. And I guess I've been told, when we do go before a congressional committee, we cower in fear. So we're really good at that. Anyway, we've done that 4 times. We don't try to let them see us sweat too much, but we're looking at other areas. I mean, nonprofits where it's happening, and state and local. I mean, you guys are getting it done, and we have a R&D project called the NEFI Financial Capability Initiative, and it's to somehow catalog all these options. It's going to be it's going to be a graphic and a menu that municipalities and even regional governments, and great with the Fed. We've been talking to Minneapolis Fed on some of this to open the imagination of local governments to financial literacy as that super vitamin effect, that interconnection, that DNA that'll tie this, and to show, and then tools that'll back up the teaching in those areas. So a lot of it's training the intermediaries, but it's to recognize, you've heard of cities for financial empowerment. It's San Francisco and New York, and I think there's like 20 plus cities. We've looked at that website and we've kind of audited what cities are doing, but we're trying to put it in a cohesive package. We might work with National League of Cities on that, but that'll be another tool you'll have to be able to talk intelligently, not that you don't already, but to local governments and spark the imagination of local and state officials. There may even be a state version of that. So that's another thing I'm doing in spare time. Yes.
My question for you is, I know you're Native American.
Right.
Who is your partner on that?
That's the American Indian College Fund. It's like the United Negro College Fund for Native Americans. It's based in Denver. And so we did update that material. So this is where things are really interesting culturally. It's a blend, and this is where we fuse things. So it's a blend of personal finance, the aspirations of higher education, in a tribal / Pueblo type setting. So that's where money is considered more community money often, in families, and it spreads out. So it's very sensitive to that kind of dynamic when you're trying to promote individual college attainment, but the word individual is not as relevant. It's more about giving back to the community, the tribe. And so there's a lot of great sensitivity to that. And so that's been updated recently. So in that workshop, there'll be a link to that original piece that we did with that organization. I think I'm done because y'all want to have a little, and we got Tiffany coming up, which is exciting. So, thank you.